Hey, welcome to My Fitness Bootcamp, where we help you to launch and grow your own fitness bootcamp to either kickstart your fitness career or boost your current gym business. Today, I have Fabian with me. He is a good friend of mine, and together we launched several bootcamps, which helped his own fitness business grow massively. And he'll talk to you about how he did it and how he's doing at the moment. So, Fabian, welcome.
Thank you, Tommy. Thank you.
Great. So, Fabian, first of all, tell us about your history. You were a diehard CrossFitter, and when we talked about the concept of fitness bootcamp for your own CrossFit box that you opened up a few years after you started doing CrossFit. Tell us about the time, the early days of you opening up your own CrossFit box before we did business together.
Yes. So I was a diehard CrossFit. Yes, I got hooked to that. Before that, I had a career as financial analyst in finance. I had a good career, but so I came across CrossFit through a friend. That was 2010. So 14 years ago, and I was hooked immediately. So CrossFit was my new religion, right? So I did it 2 years for myself. Even did one or the other very unsuccessful competition, but it was, I was very hooked. And then I started my own box. So I quit my finance and consulting career. That was actually a good career. But CrossFit was so strong. I thought like I would never forgive myself seeing my peers opening up a box and doing very well, being very happy, and I'm still in finance and I had the chance. So it was out of fear. It was out of fear of loss. So then I opened up my first CrossFit box in October 2000, right? And I think I don't know when we had contact because at the time you were already into boot camps, right? You did outdoor boot camps and stuff at that time.
Right. So I was only doing outdoor boot camps at that time, and you and I started our group class concept around the same time. That was 2013.
Yes, yes, and I don't know, I don't remember exactly how we met again because we knew each other before through
Yeah, we
basketball,
knew
right?
each other
And
before, but
yeah,
I saw you doing your own CrossFit box and you were trying hard with social media and everything. And I was also doing some social media. So we always saw each other's posts. And at one point, I remember I wrote a blog post while I was still employed. Actually, this was before
yeah,
I had quit my corporate job as well. And so I
you
started
were
my
in
own
marketing,
blog.
right?
I was in
In
marketing,
Nike marketing.
Nike, and then in medtech. So I just started this blogging while I was actually at work doing some job that I didn't like. And I posted my second blog post, and that's what you saw on Facebook. And you
No,
actually wrote me a message that day and just gave me compliments to
yeah,
keep pushing forward. So that
yeah.
really inspired me and still stays with me to this day. So thank you for that
Yeah,
message.
sure. But you were always also great that you have two major features, major things that you do really well, and one of it is marketing and social media. So I always saw that, and I thought it was on a different level than ours, but still, yeah. And then I'll come to the second one. Yeah, but then we met, I guess, and then I don't know how we started, but finally at some point we did our first boot camp together at my box, at my CrossFit box, right? And that was I remember exactly October. It started 2015.
So in
Yes.
2015, we came together. You had, like, tell us about your CrossFit box situation then up until October 2015.
Yes, so I opened up in October 2013. It was just stellar in the beginning. So we had one of these buildings. Actually, it was an old sawmill factory, but it was about to be torn down. So I always had a time horizon of 3 months, 6 months, where I didn't know whether the building was going to be torn down or not. On the flip side, we had very low rental costs. That was really good. But I started at five clients or at one client actually. And then I remember the first year, 2014, that was crazy. You know, it was just these days where you could say It's CrossFit, come and join, right? I remember exactly how it was. January 2014, 26 clients. February 51, March 83, and then April going 100 and so on. Round about, I don't know where this growth stopped, but it was maybe at around 120, 150. But it was stellar in the beginning, you know. And then I think throughout 2015, it was like constant, not growing at the same rate as in the beginning. I think even the first dip in growth came already after 3, 4, 5 months in summer, maybe, where I thought it's just going to continue to grow until, I don't know, until I have enough clients and say no more new clients. I thought it was automatic, right? When you look at these growth rates. But then at some point, it was getting harder to get new clients, right? And I think had you contacted me with that idea in 2014, February, March, where I had that huge growth rates, I would have said, no, no way. Why? CrossFit is way better than boot camps, and I'm doing great. And I think it has been throughout 2015 then when we were flattish, right? And I did try to improve and stuff, but and then we started at some point we started with morning classes. In the beginning, it was evening only, some lunch classes, but no morning classes. And then at some point, I started with 2 morning classes, 6 o'clock, right? And I remember we had about 1 or 1.5 years up until we started that boot camp together. We had always like, I don't know, 2 to 4 clients, max 4. One day we had 5 clients. But I was always there 6 in the morning with these 2 to 4 guys, and we did our morning classes 2 times a week. And I think then when we started to discuss, we thought, yeah, it would be really cool to have kind of a 8 week challenge, a boot camp, and we integrate it into our box, like with morning classes. For you, it was always clear that it needs to be morning classes, right? There was no question about it. And you said you have availability in the morning. You only have 2 classes, right? But I was very afraid to lose my 4 clients from the morning when we do boot camp, right? But then we did some mixed boot camp where we had boot camp classes on Monday, on Wednesday, and on Friday, and we had CrossFit classes on Tuesday and Thursday, and they could choose whether they want the full thing 5 days a week, including CrossFit, or just the boot camp classes Monday, Wednesday, Friday, right? That was how we did the first one.
Right. So to roll it back, you started with 2 morning classes per week, and you
Yeah,
had to get up early to train 2 to 5 people max. That
yeah,
was not really worth your time. And also, it was
no.
not really motivating for the others, because who wants to go into a big room with only 2 to 3 other people? They want a
But
full class
actually,
with a lot more energy and action, right? And for
I
you as the
remember,
coach,
yeah, I remember that was one of our big challenges in the beginning, the class size, because you came to me and you said, look, it's so much cooler to have 20 in a class than to have 4 to 5. And during these days, it was still like very strict in CrossFit that you said that we thought having 8 to 12, 12 is really max. And if you have over 12, it's not serious. You can't really coach them well enough. The quality is not the same. So I was really afraid of the bigger classes because I thought 12 was the max, and even with 12, I thought we are stretching the limit, right? So
right?
I
So
was a
you
bit
were
afraid.
flattening, right? Your
Yeah,
membership size, your member count was flattening, and you couldn't grow your morning classes or other classes. And that's
yeah,
when we came together, and I told you, hey, I have a great concept for you. It's called Fitness Bootcamp, and if you integrate that into your box, you can increase your revenue, you can increase the member count, get more kinds of members into your box that will convert to CrossFit members, and you'll have a lot more fun and group dynamics. And
yeah.
that's
That's true. That's true.
right.
However, I think in the very beginning we were not so much into converting them. That came later. Do you remember? But because in the beginning we just said, okay, let's do one chunk, 18 to even more later on, and then let's do the next one, right? But it was not so much in converting. Although some converted, but it was not our main objective back then in the, let's say, in the business model to have them converting. So it was no talk in the end like, okay, now the boot camp is over. Come on and join our
Absolutely.
class. Some did, but it was in the beginning. It was just about this camp, right?
Absolutely. You had the morning slots that were empty, and that was your
Yeah,
opportunity to fill.
yeah.
And you, as
Oh
a
yeah, yeah.
CrossFitter, you were skeptical about the fitness concept, especially scaling up to more than 12 people. And I assured
Absolutely.
you that I had a rock solid system. And if we implemented that system, we could coach and take care of each and every participant.
Yeah, and I remember in the beginning, we were, I don't know whether you were so critical about my CrossFit coaching style, but I was critical about yours because I thought, no, I'm taking care of 4 to 8 members, but I'm really like a personal trainer going through these movements, snatches and pistols, and really hard on coach. And you say, no, I'm able to coach 20, even 30, 40, and it's fun and it's good, and they are fitter, they're making progress, but kind of the profitability is so much more if you coach 30 than only 8, right?
Of
Because they,
course.
they, they pay the same or they pay even more in a boot camp.
Right, right. So that's the
Yeah,
beauty of it, right? You have people who come in who pay even more, and with a proven system, you can keep the coaching standard high. So
yeah,
then you said yes. We sat together. We created the first bootcamp concept for your box, because we have to remember that each and every fitness bootcamp should not be the same. It always depends on your own individual setup, on the people who actually run it, your own background, what your strengths are, what your weaknesses are, etc. And after we created the right offering, so to say, that
yeah,
fitted your box, we created a website, so a landing page, we
yeah,
put up some ads, and we send out a newsletter to all of our friends and former customers. And that's how we filled up the first
yeah.
boot camp at your place.
Yeah, absolutely. I think before going into the first camp and also the marketing of it and everything, I just want to go back to that capacity thing because it's so funny. Now we are in 2024. That was almost 10 years ago, right? Where you pampered me to the idea kind of to have more members in class, but it was strict. Okay, boot camp, that's okay. That can have more members. CrossFit, no way. These days, I mean, we can come later. I think we discuss about like how these days also CrossFit classes are going. I can already spoil it a bit now. I mean, my core idea is not only of a fun class, but or not only of a profitable class, but also of a more fun class is that actually to have 16 to 20 people in a CrossFit class with one coach. But that took me almost 10 years to get to that point, right? Because you're so afraid as CrossFitter to have more people in a class. And I think through you and thanks to you and your trainings, I kind of adapted my coaching style and I lost the fear of having more members because today I can say without a doubt a class with 18 or 20 well coached, it needs a lot of skill to have a CrossFit class also with some higher skilled movements, well coached and equipment consideration, everything. But then when you have that, a class with 18 is much more fun than a class with 4 to 6 for all the members. And that's a key idea. I think these days that separate the CrossFit boxes that really the box owners and coaches have a very good life, are well paid, and can have even a family and have a good family life from the CrossFit box owners that continue to struggle, that continue to hold on to the idea of having 6 to 10 members max. They are almost never able to reach a profitability that allows them to have a family or other stuff, right?
Right.
And I think that was really, in hindsight, that was really lucky that we met and you introduced me to this idea. Because one thing, I was so funny. At first, I was so CrossFitter and then I hated your classes. When I was in one of your classes, I kind of hated it. But then the feedback from the members came in. And then my wife, she said, actually, through you, I was introduced into CrossFit and I love it. But actually, I like Tommy's classes more than yours, my wife. And I was so, fuck, what? And then I looked at your coaching style kind of from a different lens. What if? Because I thought you said music was important. These or that were important. I was like, fuck it. No, that's not important. And then members can say, music's so much better and better geared toward the class and everything. It's so much better with Tommy, so it makes more sense. It's that the class is well rounded, the warm up into the strength and conditioning part to the cool down. Everything is kind of one flow. It's more flowier than your CrossFit classes. So actually, then I reconsidered and looking at your coaching through a different lens.
Right. So it's really important for me that I create a whole concept from start to beginning. So I always see one session like a good song. You have an intro, then you have, the main part of the song, then it comes to a climax and to a bridge, and then you go into another phase of in the training. It will
The
be
outro.
the outro, not the outro, but what's it called? The what's it called? The finisher, right? So then we
Yeah,
come to a
yeah, yeah,
finisher before we go to the outro, which is the cool down, right? And that's
yeah,
how
yeah,
people have a really, really good experience when they
yeah.
walk out and actually want to come back for more.
Yeah, actually, yeah, and they maybe walk out less sore or they're better off the next day, and then you have less dropouts with that style of coaching, I guess, because people feel also a bit better rested because of the all the cool down thing. Yeah,
Yeah, absolutely. And in the beginning, I was the one who handled the classes for you, for us. I did up to
the
30
boot
people
camp
in
classes.
the bootcamp
I
classes.
did I did the CrossFit classes. You
Right.
did the boot camp
So
classes.
maybe we
Yeah,
need to explain this, right? So how did we do
yeah,
this? You briefly touched on it already. So our concept in the beginning was not to scare away your CrossFit members, but the way we did it was on Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays we had the boot camp, and then on Tuesdays and Thursdays we still had normal CrossFit classes. So our unique offering to your box was, hey, you can sign up to a 10-week boot camp. You can go all in with a full package, which is 5 trainings per week. This was 3 times my type of training and 2 times CrossFit. Or you could do a lighter version, which was only the 3 times bootcamp training. Is that correct?
yeah. That's correct. And actually, to today, yeah, to today, I think that's that was for me the most successful formula. To
Mm-hmm.
today, now we have it a bit different, but now we will come to the point. But now I've grown to the point where I don't manage both boxes. Now it's 2 boxes, and I don't even manage them. I have 2 managers that do that for me. But they're a bit scared of the concept because they were not around when we did it,
Mm-hmm.
right? And then I keep on saying, like, strategically, that's the best formula. We had most success with that one.
Right.
That was so cool. Monday, Wednesday, Friday boot camp, and Tuesday, Thursday CrossFit for a CrossFit box where you still have some that are skeptical about boot camp classes and they can join Tuesday, Thursday. You don't lose them. And but maybe they then start to like the boot camp classes on Monday, Wednesday, Friday. I still think that's the most successful one for,
Right.
for, for
So you
our
just mentioned
our
that you
box.
have 2 boxes now, right? But let's
Yeah.
roll it back and tell us how you got there. Because in year 1 and 2, it was you, then you were flattening, then I came in with my fitness boot camp, and then we, ramped it up. It was hugely successful for your box. Your member count increased, your revenue increased. And how did that go? For how long?
Yeah.
And how long did it take you to be able to open your second box?
Yeah. So we started the first boot camp in October 2015, and we sold it out. We said 18 members capacity, and we sold it out, right? And so the point, as I said, as we were in this location that I didn't know whether it was torn down 3 months from now or 6 months from now. I couldn't sell 1 year memberships, right? So I sold 3 month, maybe 6 month memberships. So I had my steady income, right? And then I could pay my salary, I could pay the rent, but nothing kind of my bank account was flat. So after the end of the month, salary paid, rent paid, so it was flat, right? And then the boot camps, and I think the first one we sold them at about around about 1,200. I remember it wasn't 10 weeks back then. It was 8 weeks plus an extra week for people that couldn't do all the classes, so they had an extra week to kind of be compensated for some classes that they couldn't attend. So it was 8 weeks plus one. And we sold it at 1,200, and then the 5 times version and the 3 times version, I think it was around about 1,000 back in the day, right?
Right.
Am I correct?
Yeah.
Or
So
maybe we did even some top up for nutrition. I don't remember correctly. But
right.
but the point is, what I was gonna say, because for my 3 month memberships back then, I charged between 450. Yeah, not a lot, right? Compared to today, it's more for a 3 month, but it wasn't a lot. But then we had 18 people paying between 1,000 and 1,200. So that was about 20,000 that came in basically in a couple of days. And then I remember it was hugely successful, and already in November, December, we started marketing for the January camp. That was the
right.
second camp.
The second one.
And that was even more successful because we sold out 6 o'clock, I think, quite quickly. So we said, well, we need to introduce a 7 o'clock class because maybe you would have said, no problem, we take 30 into the morning. But from a CrossFit perspective, I was afraid to having too much people, right? So we
Mhm.
opened up a 7. And I mean, that's so different from, as a CrossFitter, you start growing your members. Maybe you start filling up the classes, and then you think about adding one class maybe because, it's extra cost and so. But we opened up 5 new classes at 7 o'clock, just like that. And not with the risk because we already had the members, right? That's another different thing with the bootcamp because you start the bootcamp at one specific date, and at that date, you know how many are going to join, and you know they are going to join frequently, almost every day. So you have full classes. All like these considerations that we have as CrossFitters when you open up a new class. But yeah, in the beginning it's only one or two, but with the bootcamp that's all different. You know from the beginning you have a good atmosphere. People are liking it, so I could open up 5 new classes in January, 7 o'clock, because I think we had almost 30 members, 26 or 27, as I remember correctly. It was really cool. Also, the 7 o'clock was a bit less, but then the 6 o'clock was sold out quite quickly. So then again, so I had 20,000 on top of what I earned from CrossFit. And then in December, because they needed to pay in advance, December I had another almost 30,000 or more. So I remember exactly my bank account was almost flat. And then all of a sudden I had 50,000 on it. So that for me was, I think it was hard to digest in a way that I was like, yeah, I'm looking for another location because this is going to end somewhere, but I can't find something in the area. But with that cash pile, I thought, well, let's do a second one. So with that cash pile, I could open up a second box and kind of say, okay, look, I can, because this one now is hugely profitable. So it gives me the money to ramp up a second box. And if we are thrown out at one box, I can continue the other box and then not lose my dream of being in the fitness industry, right? But
Mhm.
then as the story goes, we opened up that second, actually we opened it up in January. It was so fast because in October, all that cash came in. And I was like, yeah, okay, maybe we can do a second box instead of moving the members, having a second box, right? But that was very quickly. I decided that in November, December, and in January, we started that second box. So the construction was done within a month or so. And we started that second box mid of January 2016. That was then my second box. And yeah, and that was all because of the bootcamp. Because I didn't have cash before. And with 2 bootcamps, I had 50,000 on top than what I had before.
Let's pause it right here. There are some good things that you mentioned. A fitness bootcamp, if you sell it well as a package, you have no risk. You can sell an
Yeah.
offering in advance. And if you don't get enough clients, you can still cancel for whatever reason. But if your offering is strong enough, if the
Never
marketing is
happened,
strong,
but
never happened. It never happens,
but
right?
you could.
Yeah, you could, but usually if you do things right, it won't happen. And then the other side is you have cash flow. You suddenly have cash flow upfront, and you don't have to worry about sending invoices to your members monthly, hoping that they will pay at the end of the month or by the next month or the month after. You have the cash upfront, and with that, you can invest in other things. whether it's upgrading your box or building a second location as you did.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I look at it also from another way. Like, thinking as a CrossFit box owner, as I said before, when you consider opening a new class, it's first of all, it's extra cost. You won't have new members with an extra class, right? It's just an extra class, but you won't have new members because of that class. Now, if you run a box, as most still do, that have lunch classes, evening classes, and maybe here or there a morning class. Many, I think still the majority they have them maybe on Monday or on Tuesday, on Thursday, as we did for 2 years before the boot camp. Have two classes, right? But then when you do a boot camp, you open up to a complete different to put completely different potential customers, right? You all of a sudden have a very attractive morning offering that you didn't have before. And you don't have to consider, because before it's always, okay, I add one class. That means whatever you pay your coach, let's say it's 50 francs or US dollars, whatever, a class. So okay, it's going to cost me $200 a month. That's the cost. And I don't have extra revenue. With the bootcamp, okay, it's now whatever we had, 20,000, the coach is already paid. So you don't have to worry about that.
And what do you think if someone's listening to this and he's also a gym owner or a CrossFit box owner and is thinking about how to increase his revenue potentially with a fitness bootcamp, what would you say to them?
What would I say? Because I know them very well. From my standpoint, I would say you have to do that. No question. No question. You need a boot camp in your CrossFit box. There's no question. For me, it's no question. I can give you two or three other examples that are very strong for me, that there's no question. But as I know that CrossFit box owners also, I know the reservations they have. They say, no, boot camp. First of all, they say boot campers are different. My CrossFit client is coming in, is very motivated, and boot campers, you have to motivate them. They don't come regularly. They have these stereotypes about boot campers. They think CrossFitters are cooler, boot campers are not. And so these are the stereotypes. And they even say, I mean, I talk to many box owners about that, but 90% of them, they say, no way, leave me alone. I don't want to do a boot camp. Maybe next time I should visit them and then have a cool car, visit them with a Porsche and say, look, still struggling to make money. Maybe you want to think again. But I don't know how to convince someone, because no question you have to do it. But I know the reservations. The reservations is first of all, the people. So they say, nah, it's easier and better to coach a CrossFit client than a boot camp client. Different, it's not. They're the same. They're also motivated. Maybe not all of them want to do, let's say, a squat snatch and a pistol and a muscle up. Not all of the boot campers want to do, but let's be honest. How many of the CrossFitters can do that? So first of all, it's wrong. The boot camper is the same people as the CrossFitters, same. Second of all, back in the days, you could write CrossFit on the box and they came because CrossFit was new and cool. It's not the case anymore. In fact, I can tell you, we did, I have data on everything because I'm a financial analyst. I do data and analysis for everything before taking my decisions. So we did actually try to sell a CrossFit Kickstart, 3 month value. We discounted it from $790 to $490, multiple weeks campaign and try to get in CrossFitters for a Kickstart, heavily discounted, cool thing, 3 months. We got 2 people in. With the same budget, I market now regularly for 2 years. I market across a boot camp. Same budget. It's only 8 weeks of value, not 3 months. And it's not discounted from $790 to $490, but it's discounted from $1,090 to $990 early bird. Only in the beginning, early bird. Then we don't even discount anymore. And let's say I get 10 to 19 people, whether for the same budget, for the same marketing span, everything the same. I got 2 CrossFitters in, and I got 8 to 19 boot campers in a much higher value, higher profitability product. So when I realized that, I stopped marketing for CrossFit. I stopped. Even now, my only kind of marketing campaigns are getting people into boot camp and converting them into CrossFit clients. It's so much more profitable than marketing CrossFit.
And is that the same way how you got clients for your second location after you opened?
Yeah, funny story that you mentioned. Actually, it was like that. So I had these two locations and one system, Send Planner. We use Send Planner. So we had both boxes in one CRM, right? We have both clients from both boxes. At some point, so that was 2016 opening up, right? At some point, late 2016, I thought, what's happening? I'm not growing anymore. Two boxes now, and kind of flattish with the revenues, and costs are increasing because we first had rent free at the second location, and then we paid rent, and all of a sudden, and then I employed more people, and all of a sudden I was like, man, I get into money troubles. What's wrong? So I made an analysis, and I figured we had this Zurich North CrossFit that from the start, when we started, we never stopped running boot camps. We always ran boot camps there. And that was highly and hugely profitable. I just didn't know because all the clients came into one CRM, and on the bottom there was either profit or loss, but I didn't know. So I made an analysis. How many members are actually in one box and in the other? Because I knew that the second location had much less members than the first one, but I didn't know to what extent. And so I made all the math. And my God, I was shocked. So I said, we are losing at least 5,000 US every month in the second location. How was I not able to spot that for a year? Because the other box with the bootcamp was so profitable. So they always covered the cost of the second box. So actually, it's even, I feel a bit embarrassed to tell that as a financial analyst. I went to a friend and said, hey, man, I'm struggling. The second box is doing a huge loss. What should I do? And he said, okay, it was kind of it was a friend mentioned to me. And he said, okay, first, what's your most profitable product? Yeah, the boot camp, of course. So are you running a boot camp at your other location? No. Duh. And I was like, yeah, okay, it's not rocket science, but I kind of didn't think about it because, I had my reservation. I was like, I don't have a coach in the morning. And this guy, he gave me the comment and said, you know what? Don't worry whether you have a coach or not. Don't worry, really not. And actually, we started selling that boot camp. And he said, look, what we are going to do now, because you have the product, you don't need anything. We are just going to, today, in 1 hour, we fix the class times. Okay, when is it? 6:30, when is it? You fix the class times and you don't have a coach, but you start selling it. And believe me, if you have 6, 7, 8, 10 people, you are going to find a coach. So that's what we did. We start marketing it, selling it without having a coach. And oh my God, I think it was 2 days of calling and we had 12 members confirmed. I mean, my friend, he was in sales. He did all
Right.
the
So
selling
in
for me.
two
So
days, you already had 12 participants for
yeah,
your new
it wasn't,
boot camp.
it wasn't 2 consecutive days. We had 1 days of calling and then the next week a follow-up calling. And then we had 12 people confirmed 12,000 francs, right? And with these 12,000 francs, I had the confidence to go to one of my coaches from the other box. They're about 20 minutes apart, right? And so I said, look, I know it's a bit of hustle with all the traffic, but could you travel in the morning all the way through the traffic to one box, coach there, and go back to the other box? For one class, I don't know. I said, yeah, okay, I have the money. I'll pay you 1.5 times. So I paid him actually 50% more than for a regular class. And I was like, yeah, that's worth the hustle. I'm going to coach all your boot camp. Boom, there it was. From one day to another, from 5,000 loss per month to break even. Because do the math. It's 12,000 francs for 2 months, extra revenue, a bit of coaching costs, but nothing compared to the revenue. So it's about 4,000 to 5,000 of profit before tax that remained in the box. So, struggling for 1 year to kind of think about social media campaigns, think about referral campaigns, think about whatever you do to get one new client. But then 2 days of calling, new bootcamp, boom, there was 5,000 more revenues per month. And ever since, we never, ever stopped having the boot camp, and we never ever stopped going back to the old times with respect to revenues.
Right. And I have to say, there are many types of boot camps that one can run. If you look around the world, there are military style boot camps. Ours is more functional. It's very science based. It has a clear, entertaining structure. It creates an experience as well. So ours is very well thought through, also because of our background. And your background as a CrossFitter with my background as a physical therapist and bootcamp coach complemented each other very well. But this is what I always say in my courses, that it's very important to understand your own background, your strengths and weaknesses, and your own setup. And around it, you should build that high ticket offering that no one can say no to, that you can sell
Yeah.
out within, let's say, a few days or a few weeks, and that
Yeah, now
people
it's a few
will
weeks because we
love.
don't call anymore. Yeah, so sorry.
Absolutely. Right. So you were only able to sell out the second boot camp in the second location, I mean, because you had that credibility and that experience that you could
Yeah.
transfer onto the second location, right? But it took
Yeah, I
you,
mean,
or it took us, a quite short time to actually implement it into your first boot camp and also teach it to your coaches. And with the right system,
yeah.
you were able to scale that onto the second location.
Yeah, and there are so many spillovers. Once you start, look, I was the same as every other CrossFit box owner, and it was thanks to you, and that you were being persistent, that I now have what I have because of what? I was the same with the stereotypes, but now looking at it from a different lens and trying to not be, over confident and cocky about CrossFit and looking down on boot campers. Actually, when I started to see what I can learn from you, it even made my CrossFit classes a lot better because there is still more community in boot camp classes than it is in CrossFit. It's still more team workouts, it's still more team fun, and that's what people actually love. So it started to transfer these ideas of yours into the CrossFit classes, making the CrossFit classes better. And that was also important for me. And I think that's where many that just think about CrossFit, that they struggle. Yeah, just for me, it's so strong because it's safe more than my box more than once because it was really life changing for me. So I can't say enough how I don't want others to go through the same shit that I did. That's a bit I mean, I had you know you start out as a CrossFit box owner, you're young, it's all a dream. Then the first kid comes, the second kid comes. Maybe your wife has other ideas about life and about financial security. So pressure starts building up, and had I done this boot camp stuff consistently and well from the beginning in the second location, and the marketing, especially the marketing of it, that's a huge part. Had I done that with a pro consistently from the start, I wouldn't have my personal struggles that I had. And I want no other to go through these struggles just because the CrossFit box doesn't yield enough salary and profit to have a good life. That's why I'm so strong about it. So I think it's worth mentioning one story. If there are CrossFit um, CrossFit founders and owners, box owners. There is a very cool mentorship organization. I don't know whether I should name them or not. I went there for a weekend, and it was about making CrossFit box owners better and more successful. Many people were there, like about 400, 300 or 400 CrossFit box owners and more coaches mentoring, right? So I was there. And then I talked to them and everything. But my main takeaway, I remember, it was about I don't know 20 speeches, and you could write down books and everything. But I took home one message, and it wasn't from none of the teachings of the mentors, nothing. I was there looking around, talking to them. At the surface, they all seemed successful. When you talk to them, they didn't have good lives. They were working a lot. They didn't earn a lot. Most of them, even the ones that were mentored. And one thing stood out to me. There was one girl from Las Vegas. She was there with the full staff, 12 people. So she paid for 12 people flying into, it was in Chicago, flying from Las Vegas to Chicago 12 people. And you know what separated her from all others? She was the only one. She was a mentor and a speaker, but she was the only one that wasn't the CrossFit box owners. Guess what she ran?
Fitness
Boot
boot camps.
camps,
Yeah.
fitness boot camps. Hey, for me, it was like, okay, all others are talking shit. If you talk to them, yeah, how successful they are. If you talk to them
Mhm.
privately, yeah, I don't have time, I don't have money. And she showed it. She was there. 12 people paid everyone. She didn't mention how successful she is. You could see it. And I was like, okay, what's the difference between her and 400 other CrossFit box owners? That's boot camp and that's CrossFit. And then I thought, and I actually comparing myself to all others, I thought, I'm in the top 1 or 5%, the way I'm doing. I mean, I flew over from living in Mexico, steering my two boxes out of Mexico and flying into Chicago. Obviously, I was one of the more successful ones there, but I was also maybe the only one that ran CrossFit and boot camps.
Hmm. That's interesting. Yeah. So you're saying a hybrid approach would be a lot better for most CrossFit owners because a lot of CrossFit box owners, they just struggle with day-to-day work.
I think it's about maybe 1 to 2% that really do a great job just doing CrossFit. There are some that do a fantastic job just doing CrossFit, but I'm sure it's about 80% that are struggling more. That their social media would make you think. Personally, because I talk to many of them personally, even the more successful ones, the most successful ones in Switzerland, I talk to them personally, and it's not like they have it all figured out. I haven't as well, but I'm saying for me, having a boot camp is one of the differentiator between potentially having a very, very good life and really running and running and running and looking for new clients. And, for me, it has made all the difference.
That's great to hear. I want to jump into the last topic, which is there might be some CrossFit box owners listening, but also some who want to be a gym or CrossFit box owner, someone who is still working a 9 to 5 job or even an 8 to 9 job, who knows, and wants to quit their job or start a side hustle pursuing what they love, which is fitness. And what would you say to someone who wants to start something on the side, either make some extra money on the side or just have a side job to help other live a healthier life? I know that when I started out, I had a bag full of equipment that was not expensive. I started out in the parks, in public parks, with almost zero costs. You started out with a van. I remember a white van, and you had some equipment there before you opened up your own physical location. So, what is your recommendation for someone who wants to start out?
Yeah. There's two ways. Either you figure it out yourself, then you just do it. Maybe some can, but I think it's the second best way because why do you need to reinvent the wheel? Why? I mean, I was very lucky to have you that had it all already figured out, going through the trenches, starting. I don't know with how many you started, but starting with everything, learning, and then well, I had that advantage, so I could sell out my first camp thanks to you and your marketing. And we have been in contact since many times because I struggled with the marketing. So that's a thing. I would say, like, if there is a way where you can learn from someone else, it's worth all the money, all the money to learn from someone how to not do the biggest mistakes. The second thing is the marketing. The marketing, that's the most important because you can be the best coach and even you coach one camp and you have referrals, but you need a constant flow of members. Or you do consecutive boot camps. I mean, there's different models. I know you run a different model and you have very high conversion rates from one boot camp to the next one. I have now also good conversion rates from boot campers into CrossFit clients. But just as we go now through these details, someone has figured it out. So we are in the way to figure out how to increase our conversion rate from bootcamp into regular CrossFit clients. We're still not perfect, but we have sometimes conversion rates 50 to 70%, which is huge. If you have 6 times a year, 10 to 20 new clients, so it's 60 to 120 new clients, and you can even convert 50 to 60, 70%. That's huge. That is also reflective of the growth we had the last 2 years. That's only because of boot camps. But then again, going back to the point, what should they do? Yeah, go to someone that figured it out, get some help, and also get some help in marketing. And push your boot camp 2 months before you start. If you want to start today, don't start today, start in 2 months, but start marketing today. Maybe you don't have a coach, maybe you don't have it all figured out, but start with the marketing. Sell it like it. That's what we did, right? We were in that box and we looked around and said, there is no boot camper. And we said, imagine in 2 months it will be full, energized, bursting with energy. And with that mindset, we went out. And I even remember up to the start, at some point, we only had 8, 9, and we were getting nervous to fill it out. And then because we knew 20 were going to be in, I knew we stepped it up. So I started calling friends. Hey, man, Florian, you're fat. Let's be honest. You're fat. I mean, it's the best thing for you. Let's be honest. You've
Yeah.
been a world class rower. Let's be honest. And through that, we got 3 new members because we started like going to our friends saying, look, support me here, participate in that boot camp. I don't know. You have your strategies, how you get your members, but yeah, you don't need it all figured out. If you want to do it, get some help how to structure it well. And, get some strategic help, someone you can talk to where you can say, that's my situation. That's what I want to do. I have time, 6 o'clock. What do you think? So first, get some. I don't know I don't know what you offer. If you offer free calls or if you offer a bigger package, a smaller package. I don't know what you offer, but talk to Tommy first, how to structure it. And I don't know whether you offer some help with marketing, but then talk to an expert, the bootcamp expert in marketing, to have that marketing nailed down.
Yeah. And this is possible for anyone, whether you have a gym or not. You can start out within 30 days. You can start out with 2 people, 5 people with almost zero cost for equipment. You can do it anywhere, anytime. You could do it in the mornings. You can do it in the evenings. You can do it on the weekends. You can do it indoors, outdoors. You can start with a location that's free for everyone to use. Depending on, of course, where you live and how cold it is, it might be more challenging for some, but even then, there are possibilities for cheap rents. You don't have to sign the contract. You don't have to sign a lease for a location and deck it out and paint the walls and everything. No, you
Yeah.
started out with the van. I started out with a rolling suitcase full of kettlebells and some ropes and
Yeah.
bands in the park. Then we
Yeah,
grew
right.
big from there on.
Yeah, absolutely. Actually, I just need to jump off because I have my weekly marketing call to market boot camp. So I have a call every week with my marketing guy that learned your system, and that we are actually going through the weekly lead and client generation. Let's see what we got last week of the leads and clients. So he's going to report now.
Perfect. Well, I hope there will be some good news. Thanks so much for the talk. It's been great catching up with you, and I'll see
Yeah.
you soon. And for everyone else listening, we hope you had some good takeaways out of this call. And if you have any questions, go to myfitnessbootcamp.com, and we're signing out. Bye bye.